In the know, non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
It's a little Saturday check down here on this 4th of July weekend. Hope you guys aren't blowing your hands off or limbs with fireworks. Be safe out there. Who was that? Who was the guy? Was it JPP that did that?
Yeah,
one time?
Jason Pierre-Paul.
Yep. And then Columbus Blue Jackets prospect goalie got killed a couple of years ago by a firework that he got in front of to try and save a kid, and it killed him.
That's right. God,
I'm not a fireworks guy, so
there's no upside.
They do nothing for me.
I can't defend them. Sorry,
I'm fine, watching them from afar, but I don't need to be within 100 yards. Just keep me away.
And now we're replacing fireworks shows, at least in Minneapolis, with laser light shows. Is that what I saw? Or a laser light show? Did you see that one?
Like the Stone Arch one?
I think so.
That's going to be laser lights instead of fireworks?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that goes. I might just, well, I'm going to be, the wife and I are going to be in Vegas this weekend for 36 hours. Going to go and get into some trouble and endure the 110 degree. I love like the 110 degree. It's a dry heat.
Dry heat is superior to being drenched when you walk out of the hotel.
Mm-hmm. It's like a hairdryer blowing in your face when you walk out. It's great. But this is a Saturday checkdown episode of Purple Daily presented by TCL, one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands. They have a new lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution at an affordable cost. Learn more at TCL.com and inspire greatness with TCL. Mm-hmm. Boys, this is a leftover question from our Feedback Friday stash here from Andrew Koski. It's a big one. He says, how do the Vikings win the Super Bowl this year? What's on your checklist for the Vikings to win a Super Bowl this year?
Wow.
Well, it's going to start with Brian Flores' defense taking an incredible step, not just a big step, but an incredible step. Do I think that is absolutely an asinine thing to suggest could happen? No, I expect them to be really improved. So it's going to start with that, because if you have a defense that even comes close to resembling the Donashell 2022, you're absolutely screwed, right? So I'm going to start with this. It has to be grounded in a defense that, let's say, is top 10, but like 9 or 10. So it doesn't have to be top 5. And then the offense in O'Connell's second year here, calling plays and also setting the personnel scheme, is going to absolutely have to take a step into being consistent. Like, we saw some great things, but the whole thing about the fourth quarter and the 8 comebacks by Kirk and company, and the correct assessment that is not a sustainable model, also goes to, it shouldn't have to be. Like, it shouldn't have to be like, well, if you can't come back in the fourth quarter now, you're screwed. No, you should take a significant step so that after the scripted plays are done, you don't take a large part of the next 2+ quarters off. You are firing on all cylinders through the majority of your games. Not all. You're going to have some bad games. I mean, it happens. But I think those are the two fundamentally most important things. If we're not going to also get into, can Kirk do that? I personally don't think he can, but like, there's individual assessments as well. But just from a big picture perspective, boys, I'm going to say defense has to take a massive step. Offense has to be what it was in the fourth quarter, basically for the majority of most games.
Yeah, I would say offense takes even a half step forward, right? I mean, they were a top 10 offense last year, but can they take a significant jump and be a more balanced offense like KOC wants to be? I saw Mina Kimes even talking about that in her latest pod about Kevin O'Connell wanting to run the ball more effectively, but also just being a more balanced offense. And KOC had some problems last year too, still, even with that offense being top 10. There was some problems, in short yardage situations, not having a home run threat. So there is things on that offense, I think, that can take a step forward. But yes, the defense night and day has to be incredible. I mean, yes, they could go from the 30th ranked defense to the 17th, which I think is the bar we're all asking them to be, but they'd have to be probably a top 10 defense. And then lastly, I would say you got to get some breaks, right? Like you got to stay healthy. You got to hope that you can get some home playoff games. Like you have to make your own breaks, but also you have to make sure that you're not digging yourself any type of big hole either.
Yes, I think I'll add a couple things to what you guys are saying, because you're both kind of saying like offense needs to take a step forward too, and so I would say in general you need to ask yourself a question: what are you going to be great at? Great relative to the rest of the league. I think there have been plenty of Super Bowl winners that are offensive centric. They're great at offense, but they're not the number one scoring offense. But so I think you got to be like a top 3 offense. You have to be a great offensive team relative to this year's league. Or you have to be a great defensive team, like the Seattle Seahawks from 10 years ago, right? The Legion of Boom, or the Ravens team we talked about on Feedback Friday or whatever. So if I go through a list of like the recent Super Bowl winners, I'll just throw it and say like, what are they great at, right? Well, the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. They're great at offense. The Buccaneers and the Patriots last 3 Super Bowls are great at offense because they have Tom Brady, or they could just say like they're great at quarterback, right?
Right.
And leadership. The Rams won the Super Bowl a couple years ago with Matthew Stafford. Throughout the regular season, it took them a while to find their footing, but they were great at defense, and they were great at offense, and they were great at pressuring quarterbacks. So, and we could keep playing this game up and down. What are you going to be great at? Are you going to be a top 3 offense? If so, okay. Let's talk. Like a top 3 offense can win a Super Bowl. Can you be really good at offense, but great at, with Brian Flores' defense, can you be great at attacking opposing quarterbacks? If you told me, hey, this is going to be one of the 3 best pass rushing defenses in the league because of Danielle Hunter and because of Brian Flores and the system, I would say, okay, that's awesome. You need to be great at something, and they've been good oftentimes at things throughout our lives, but rarely great since the Purple People Eaters, right?
And so let's say that you're trending, like the season starts and you're trending in a really positive way. Okay. The other question is this, and it's Dex's favorite thing now, and it's a viable question. I feel like 6 years ago, this would not have been an actual like question that could be answered with any certainty. Do you have the GM? Do you have the structure to go out and say, okay, we are possibly in, I don't know, defensively superior to where we expected to be at the trade deadline? Do you go make the Jalen Ramsey trade? Because that's what that Rams team did. That Rams team showed some big cojones, and it's
or like a Von Miller. Who's your Von Miller going to come in, right?
Exactly. But I'm just saying, like, let's say Brian Flores clearly has a plan in place that works, and the quarterbacks are okay, but they're nondescript and not great. Do you have the ability to say, you know what, it's time to go and make that trade?
It feels like, too, the NFL is finally catching up with the trade deadline season, if you will. Like the other 3 major sports, they all do a great job at it. Last few years, we've seen obviously TJ Hawkinson. We saw Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller. There's other examples I'm probably sleeping on, too. Was Khalil Mack a mid-season trade last year? Or no,
I think he was off-season.
Off-season, but in general, the NFL is finally catching up to that. So that's now becoming a legit day. And yeah, if you find a missing piece there, whether that's a cornerback, pass rusher, linebacker, and Kwesi wants to do some of that, because I would still do that 2nd-round trade every single time for TJ Hawkinson. Like, I'm not upset that the Vikings didn't have a 2nd-round pick this year because they got a potentially top-end tight end. So yeah, can you have the stones and can you have the fortitude to do it?
Right. And I think the other thing too that you need, I think, is home field advantage throughout the playoffs. How many times have the Vikings, gone into New York 20 years ago and they're bugging the headsets or whatever, right? Which may or may not have happened. Or you go into Philadelphia and their fans are throwing bottles at Vikings fans and stuff, and you just get overwhelmed. Go play. Not that the home NFC Championship games have gone their way either. 98 as a prime example, but instead of going to New Orleans and dealing with crowd noise or going to Philadelphia, play a home NFC Championship game. And this sounds kind of pie in the sky here because the Vikings are the 18th Super Bowl favorite according to MGM. So, we're projecting here a little bit, but if you can get out of the gate hot and you can add something at the deadline, and then this is the other thing on the checklist, you need some of these other NFC teams to just not be as good as people think they're going to be, right? You need the Eagles to have a Super Bowl hangover and maybe lose like 3 of their first 5 games or something. You need the Cowboys to be the Cowboys, which is for 30 years, they've just been underachieving and disappointing expectations. You need the Cowboys to come out and play like they want Mike McCarthy get fired, right? So you can have a 4-game lead on them in the NFC playoff bracket. You need the Niners to be starting Sam Darnold for like 10 games. And you need the Lions to be the Lions. So, and there's probably a couple other teams in there too, but if you really do need to win like 13 or 14 games to set yourself up, get a bye in the first round. If you're talking about the best odds to win a Super Bowl, a bye and playing 2 games at US Bank Stadium and then figure it out against whoever you play on the other side in the AFC, like to me, that's a big deal. It's not so many people, including the Wilfs, I think, are stuck in this mindset of just get in the tournament. And what? Play a road game in the first round or play a wild card game at home, and then now you got to play in the second round on the road, and then on the road in the AFC Championship game. That's go win 9 games and see what happens. That's not. You got to win 14 games and see what happens. That to me, that's the blueprint.
Yeah, well, it's 13 or 14 wins, and look, I mean, can you get in and make a run? Absolutely, but it takes a special team and it takes a quarterback, and this is where I don't have enough faith in Kirk. It takes a quarterback like a Brady. It takes a quarterback that basically can take you through, wild card round on, and it is difficult.
Yeah.
I feel like the Vikings, I don't feel, to go back to the heart of this question, like they are yet at a place where they're going to do this. But I think that this league is interesting in that things can happen. To go off of Declan's last point, though, in his recipe for a Super Bowl berth, the only issue is this, and this is sort of concerns me a little bit about the upcoming season. You got a lot of good breaks last season.
Yeah.
Like you got a lot of the things he's talking about, and ordinarily breaks don't come on top of breaks. So it's not like, hey, we had a 3-year run, nobody got hurt. And, ordinarily it's 1 year you get some breaks, the next year somebody goes down or something. So I feel like it was a little bit of a missed opportunity, at least to get past the Giants, because when you're talking 8 fourth quarter comebacks, things also went right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I'm a little bit concerned that the football karma gods might bite us in the ass a bit more this season.
And yeah, the Eagles were incredibly healthy last year. I know Jalen Hurts missed like 3 of the last 4 games, but they were in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed. So like they weren't fighting for their lives, even though they had to start Gardner Minshew. But last year, the Vikings, they lose Brian O'Neill going on that playoff game. Wasn't Dalvin Tomlinson super banged up? Like everyone's hurt by January in the NFL, right? Like no one's 100% by any means.
Right.
But most Super Bowl, at least teams that make it, are relatively very, very healthy. Mm-hmm. So you need the health factor on your side. But to Judd's point, yeah, I mean, the health factor probably did sway more towards the Viking side than it did, the bad luck side.
Yeah. So I guess if we're going to cobble all this together in a perfect checklist, you got to stay healthy. You need some of these other teams in the NFC to falter. You need to fend off the inevitable regression of everything went right last year. How can you fight that off by just being a better overall team, not needing things to go perfectly? You're just better, right? Mm-hmm. You need to be great at something. Offense is probably the closest bridge. Maybe pass rush if Brian Flores comes in and delivers on the system. And quite frankly, you just need the football gods to be on your side in that way for the first time since the late 1970s.
And then they abandoned us at the Super Bowl, just left us high and dry.
Yeah, 4 different times.
Yeah.
Mind you. Yeah. You know who won't abandon you high and dry is 3Jack with their incredible menu and golf-friendly location in the North Loop, Minneapolis.
Yeah, maybe some tee times in the actual golf course are bogged down, right? It's the weekend, but you want to get your swings in. I would go to 3Jack then. They got simulator bays that are open. And of course, yes, this delicious menu of food. I mean, the loaded nachos, which Mackie, Judd, and myself can't get enough of. The hot chicken sandwich. Judd had that steak sandwich the last time we were there. A great selection of beverages as well. And low key, one of the best patio spots in all the North Loop. It's tucked back there. It's a great little spot, great place to pony up to. Go to 3jack.com to book those simulator bays and also to check out their new burger weeks every single week at 3Jack. It's a great spot to get a bite to eat and, of course, get some swings in. Go to 3Jack and 3jack.com.
All right, there's your little Saturday check down here. Be safe, be responsible. Don't do anything Judd wouldn't do
How about
on this
that?
4th of July weekend.
Yeah, which means just sit in your chair and drink.
drink.
Don't drive. Don't do anything stupid. No fireworks. Keep them all, folks. Keep them all. All the digits.
All the digits. Yep. All right. Purple Daily. Daily Vikings entertainment.